Rise people, so it's Sunday. You know what that means. You're going to hear another awesome message. Still continuing with our testimony series. Tonight you're going to be hearing from Willy Martinez. So get excited. It's super awesome to hear him talk about the way he came to know the Lord, his life, and what he's learning now. But really quick, a couple of announcements. The winner of our sign challenge is going to be announced tomorrow, so be looking on the Rise Instagram for the video saying that. You guys did a really awesome job on those signs, but we'll get to that tomorrow. Later this week, girls, we have Bible study on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. We're doing the Zoom, so just zoom on in for that. See what I did there? Anyways, and then also boys Bible study. Just let Willy know if you want to be a part of it, and he'll send you out the messages and stuff that you guys are studying. At the end of this video, his phone number will be on the bottom of the screen. So just give him a text or text me, and I'll give him your number and all those things. And then also next Sunday, we're going to be doing a Rise Zoom. So be on the lookout for the link for that. I figured out how we can play Mafia over Zoom. It's going to be pretty sick. So just be on the lookout for all that. Call your leaders. We miss you. Let us know how we can be helping and loving you during this time. All right. Check Willy out.
What's up, guys? It's Will here. For those of you who don't know me, I volunteer with Rise. Help Katie out. I also run the Dudes Bible Study. So if anyone's interested in that, hit me up. You can get my contact from Katie. We're going to continue the testimony series that we've had going. You heard from Ty last week. You heard a little bit of his story. And this week you're going to hear a little bit of my story. So I guess I'll just dive right into it. I grew up in Colorado Springs. I was born in Colorado Springs. I actually lived in Pueblo until I was going into 5th grade. But I say I grew up in Colorado Springs because that's really where I did most of my growing and learning, I think. Grew up in a Christian household, super loving, super supportive parents. I'm still very close with my parents. I have a little brother as well. We were pretty close growing up. I think when I was in high school, I might have kind of pushed him away a little bit. But I would say that we're pretty close now again. He lives out in Oregon now. I still see him from time to time, and we talk all the time and stuff, so that's pretty cool. We're a pretty tight-knit family, and that's something that I definitely took for granted for a long time, but it's definitely pretty sweet to have a support group like that. Grew up in a super loving family, super solid household, but I kind of just had this, we would go to church every week, and that was it. I didn't really dive into what it meant to be a believer, and this path that the Lord had for me. And I would say that as I got older, I kind of started to develop my own faith outside of my parents. I'd like to say that was probably my junior year of high school. I kind of created my own faith and started to cultivate my own faith and what all that meant. But in reality, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago where I really started to come into my own. High school for me, I'll kind of just start there, was incredible. I had a super solid group of friends. We all ran track and cross country together. We pretty much did everything together. We were all really big into Young Life. We would hang out all the time. Is just a really super solid, supportive group of people, which I totally took for granted. And I didn't realize how important that was until I got to college, where I had friends, but they weren't supportive and they weren't as loving and caring and as like-minded as the group of friends that I had in high school. And I still struggle with that a little bit today, where I have a lot of friends up here, but I'm not as close with a lot of them as I have been with people in the past. And so that's kind of been something that I've had to kind of wrestle with and figure out. So I'd say that in high school, my identity was running and was Young Life. I'd say that my belief was more in Young Life than it was in God. And I didn't really figure that out until kind of my senior year, and even into college a little bit, when I was still sort of involved with Young Life here and there, and realizing that had taken the place of God for me. And so that was a game changer to kind of start working through that and what that looked like and how to get out of that. But I actually had the opportunity to, when I left high school, to run Young Life a little bit, or help out with Young Life rather, up here in Crested Butte, which definitely kept me sane. To have some sort of constant through high school and into college was huge for me, and to have some structure was really important to me. So that was a huge blessing. I will say that most of my story kind of revolves around failure ultimately and not being good enough. And I'll kind of start by saying that the first big experience I had with that was with running, actually. I was planning on running in college down at Western State. I had been training 100, 110 miles a week plus cross training, which takes up a pretty good chunk of time for that whole summer. And I was definitely very invested and ready to get after it. And I sent my training log to my coach one day, and she emailed me back and said, "Yep, that's not good enough. Try again next year." And just like that, my, I guess, dreams of college running were kind of shut out. And for me to spend that much time working towards something and then to have it shut down in just a few seconds it just destroyed me. I was home alone that summer, or for a couple weeks that summer. My parents were on vacation. And so I just remember calling my dad and being like, "Hey, I can't run a Western. Like, I'm not good enough." And of course that wasn't my exact wording, but that's how I felt. And so that crushed me for sure. And so that was kind of the first big thing that the first big failure I had that I guess impacted me the most, because running was so much of who I was. And then again, later on in college, I mean, I only did a year at Western. I tell everybody I dropped out. Ultimately, I failed out. I was put on academic probation after my first semester and still didn't enjoy college that much my second semester and still skipped class and everything. So I ended up failing out of Western. And that was kind of the other big thing where, called my parents up on the last day of school. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm not allowed back to school. So I think I'm just going to stay up here and go live in Crested Butte and be a ski bum." Like, that sounded cool to me, but ultimately that was just like a coping method I didn't know what else to do. And again, I felt like I wasn't good enough. And it was all, mostly self-induced. It was all decisions I had made. But to call my parents and be like, "Hey, I'm a failure," essentially was a hard thing. And that's something that I still deal with today quite a bit. And actually something that quite recently I've been working through, especially since we have so much time now to read and to think and to write and all that stuff. I've been trying to do all those things a little bit more, and I'm realizing that I've become very stagnant with the lifestyle that I have up here. For a while, I didn't work towards anything because I was just very comfortable. And I think a big part of that was I was scared to spend time working towards something, knowing that more than likely I was just going to fail at the end of it, or I wasn't going to be good enough. And so that's something that I've been trying to work through, and very slowly is getting better for sure. But definitely a hard thing. So with that, I have a few verses for you guys. I want to start with Genesis 1:26 and 27. It says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.' So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created him." Now for me, I kind of like going about life on my own. It's how I've always liked to have done it. Of course, I've had immense support in the past, but for me, this verse really hones in the fact that we are relational beings, that we are made to be in relationships, to have friendships, to just have people surround us with support and love. And so I've been working through this idea that in Christ, in my Creator, I have purpose, fulfillment, delight, and that ultimately life flows from a relationship with Him. So I want you guys to ponder that a little bit, and especially if not being good enough is something that you feel like you're faced with fairly regularly. And then I have one more verse as well that I want to share. It is Ephesians 2:10. It says, "For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, and we should walk in them." That again is just, for me, it solidifies this idea that the path is already set before us, and we just have to walk it. And yes, we might fail, and yes, we might think we're not good enough, but ultimately, the Lord has a plan for us, and it doesn't end with our failure. It ends with His triumph, and we get to be a part of that, which is incredible. So yeah, hope you guys got a little something out of this. Let me know if you have any questions, or let Katie know. And yeah, she'll probably direct you to me or whatever. But yeah, hope you guys have a good week. Thinking about you guys and praying for you. I'll talk to you later.